Cool, thanks. Sorry we are a bit late. When I was trying to go live here, everything just fell apart and the streaming service dropped. But hopefully you can hear me now and everything is good. Cool, thanks. Sorry we are a bit late. When I was trying to go live here, everything on the YouTube, could you go in and add a comment that they should follow the LinkedIn stream? Cool, thanks. Yes, that's a bit. Anyway, cool. Let's get started. I'm late. You are late. Yes. So I wanted to, First off, I wanted to just preface, and obviously, you're here because integration is interesting for you. We are hosting an event here in Copenhagen that I hope you want to see and want to learn more about. You can go to event.figaf.com to learn more about what is possible in this in the migration space. We got some really good experts coming, and there's a lot of tools on our ideas about the migration journey that you are embarking on. So I hope if you are interested in migration, you are in Europe, come join us there. Good. So we do have this this tool. It's called the Figaf. There's a lot of components in place to simplify this, to simplify your journey using the Figaf tool. So it enables you to start for free. You can deploy it in your BTP account, so it leverages all of the BTP settings that you have. You can easily upgrade to the full versions once you're working on this scenario, so it is really the ideal job. And one of the things we do often recommend is that you go in and figure out which tool works for which scenarios. We have seen a lot of customers that uses the SAP migration tool for some and our migration tool for other scenarios. So having this in place just simplifies the way you're working on this. So if we're just looking at a lot of these tasks that you would be having when doing migrations, there's something about plan. I don't know if you can actually see this or if it is too small, but there's a lot of things about assessment. You want to understand what's going on. Let me just zoom in here and just give you this this plan a little more in detail. Assessment, proof of concepts. There's a lot of things about migrating that it can do. There's a component here about testing, which is obviously important. And then there's the part about keeping track of your current progress, what's actually going on and what you can actually see in these scenarios. So I do hope you want to explore those scenarios. And then if you go for the DevOps, we also have all the capabilities in that. Anyway. So with the migration journey, you have two components. There's the free that you'll be able to explore, and this is the part that gives you an assessment. It's more like a system landscape showing you what you have for a given system, what's going on, what's the important part about these things. So we strongly recommend that you explore it. Obviously, if you have questions, just put them into the chat and we'll try to cover these. But we have the assessment, we'll cover that shortly. We have this testing part, and I think this is the main part about what the tool can do for you in the migration journey. And then we have this overview to manage the migration. And we have our own migration that works differently than the SAP migration tool. So it's always a good idea to have multiple different ways of working on these scenarios. And then the DevOps, that's a completely other topic, one that I always love to talk about, but let's do that another day. So overview of the migration. I think this is, it's kind of boring, but one of the things we found when we worked on this migration tool was if you did not really have a good way to configure these components or understand who was making which changes, it became really difficult to actually handle the scenarios correctly and understand what you're doing. So we created this that enables you to say we have these ICOs on our PI system. We have these are ICOs already migrated, done with these, migrated to these. We have a list of what test cases we have. We have actually a flag if it's moved into production. And one of the latest innovations we added on this was enabling you to actually split this into tags, so you could tag a number of objects and thereby be able to say, okay, for these 10 different interfaces, we want to migrate them in this way. That meant it became a lot easier to understand this. So that's part of it. We have our assessment. It will not give you a list of the things that can be migrated or not migrated, to some extent, of course. And yeah, use it together with the SAP's assessment. This is more the raw data of the landscape. Of what can actually be on. So it looks something like this. We have added a few extra columns, like the next here about tags. This is deep content search inside of the scenarios. And the thing we often ran into when working with some customers on the migration was that they had a message mapping. It was using one specific function for one reason or another, and we did not really have a good way to handle this, and therefore that whole flow failed. So instead we obviously need to fix this, but to understand the breadth and challenge with this, we needed to do a context search and then be able to actually say, okay, you have these 10 different mappings that are using this that is causing problems, and then you can actually see this. So this is really a powerful feature. We do provide a list of it, and then once you see it, you can see that this ICO has been mapped to these different scenarios. One thing we are working on at the moment is also to add if a scenario is BPMN related, so that also simplifies some of the processing. Cool. Questions? Just put them into the chat and we'll try to cover these things. I think we started out with this Gartner estimate a couple of years ago. I don't know if it has changed, but obviously one of the really big problems about a migration is how do we actually test it? How do we actually ensure that it works the same as it did before and nothing has been changed in any meaningful way? And that is what we set out to do with the tool, being able to take some data from your PI system and run them on the integration suite. It is some of those things that actually speed it up, because if you as a developer can test the integration when you have done it and migrated, and not wait until some business users have time to send the data, you are going to lose a lot of time. And with all of this integrated, it's just easier. You can have a team that are creating the test cases, that a team that are developing, and thereby having this continuously run with the testing makes the testing process so much smoother. And yeah, it looks simple. So the way it works is it fetches your data from the PI system. It sounds easy, but it becomes a little more complex when you have messages with multiple receivers that are grouped and split and stuff like that. Then it becomes much more challenging. And that's one of the things we have found with this. How do we actually resolve these? And then we do have, we convert the test case into iFlows. We run them into the cloud integration iFlow. We can process them, and then we can actually see the result, and we can compare this. One of our partners used this for one of their projects. They created 80 test cases in a fairly short amount of time. We did get a lot of inputs and ways to improve the tool by then, and I think the tool became better, and also, much more importantly, the solution that they actually used for this is now free. So we learned and we figured out that this was free. I wanted to just show you a short demo of this, but obviously it could also depend about would you actually want to see it from how do we install it to create this, or should we just go with the installation guide, or just show how does this actually work. So I would show this how it actually work, I think, for now, since I missed a few minutes in the beginning. If you want, we can also show you, okay, so how do I get started with this? What is actually the steps involved from plain to getting started? So if you have questions on that, or want to see that I can do this in a short period of time, put it into chat and I can cover that also. Okay, we got one for Go With Works, please. Any other comments on it? I'll start here. So normally we recommend you to deploy it in the BTP Cloud Foundry. It is the best place, well, the easiest to get it running secured in a good manner. But let's get started. So here we have the tool. Right now it's just running on one of our sandbox systems here in the office. And I have this, I have configured some agents here. These are the different PI systems that I have in the landscape. And then we can actually show these things for handling what is needed. Once I've done that, I'll go to my configuration, and here I'll add the different configurations and show what is actually possible for these scenarios. Good. Once that's done, we will get this list out here. And right now I have gone into my tags column here and said we will just use the one in wave 1. So I can go to all of my objects, filter out these, and then add them to a specific tag. So if we want to create a new test case, I click here on an ICO, I select record messages, demo line, and just to make it easier to understand, find the messages, we'll be using this. And I'll say I'll fetch future messages, which means that it will check if everything is correct. And then if it is, we can then send just into the system. So now I can send a message in, send 2 messages in. It will take a little while, we just need to have it processed in the PI systems for this to work. Once it's done that, we can pull the messages, which means we'll log on to the PI system, fetch all of these data. Let's see what we have. We have 2 incoming messages and 6 outbound messages. This is because this is a split scenario. We do have one criteria here we needed to set up, that is the ID. So we need, if you have a 1 to multiple split, you need to have an expression that enables you to determine if 2 messages are the same. So that's what we set up here. Okay, so I can then create this as test case. We'll create it. It needs to be a regression. And I'll just delete this. We don't want more messages on this. So now I've created a test case for it. And if I go back to my overview here, we can see we now have 9. I have an ICO already migrated with the Figaf tool, but obviously you could also have done it with the SAP Migration tool. Then you select migrate test cases. You see here the one we just created. You select migrate to iFlow. We add it to a test suite. So all our test cases need to be created into a test suite. Normally I recommend that you create a test suite for the PI recordings and one for the CPI recordings. Questions, comments, put them into the chat. And yes, I'll try to cover also installation after we've gone through the full site. So if here, then we can cover that. Oh, sorry, I was too fast. So I need to add it here. So right now we have migrated this with the Figaf tool. If we have not done it with the Figaf tool, we can also go in and say, okay, or we needed to go in and say, for this PI message, where can I find this in my iFlow? So I can select some point here, and then it would be using that element ID here. So you have this mapping, where do I fetch the message from where. So you select here, create recording. So now we have a recording. I can go run it here, which will then run it on that specific iFlow. Hopefully I got it deployed. It's always a bit interesting. So we can see here the iFlow that is being processed as part of this. Any questions on what you can test, what you cannot test is always good. So we can see here it fails for some reason. So there's some camel errors. Yeah, a certificate. I think this has been migrated without certificates and wrong service. So anyway, what the important part about this is that you can actually see where you can see that the message is processed to here. So obviously we leverage CPI helper. We can go back and forth between CPI helper and this. So when you're working on this, you can either create, so it depends on the scenario what you have. You can either create the test case before you do work on the migration, or you can migrate an iFlow, then migrate the test cases, and then experience it. But I guess it depends on what kind of team you have and the workflow you find most useful. But yeah, I think it's more about what are the scenario. The easier you have access to these test cases, and also if you have these test cases, it may be easier to see where you can also fetch these things. Yes, auto-align probably be a good idea. We normally also recommend that you go in and check the iFlows that we generate when working with our tool. That's part of the simplicity. But now we can see here if it's been processed. We can see everything was processed correctly. If we look at the diffs here, we can see that some of these were grayed out, and that was because we had in in the message we did have a timestamp on, and we can see this is the current timestamp and this was an older timestamp, and you can easily just go in and click and then ignore these elements, so you always have a better way of working with these scenarios. And yeah, it simplifies the process to be able to use that setup. Good. That is actually the effort of creating a test case in most scenarios. Comments on it, but yeah, the workflow is dependent. We can then here in our migration overview see this line here. We can see we have some TPI test cases. We can go in and we can open these test cases. We can see the statuses of these, so we have a lot of information about what's going on these landscapes, and we can then also in the overview here see what migration tool was used and if this iFlow has been moved into the productive tenant. And thereby, as a product manager, you have a lot more understanding, or project manager understanding of what's going on. If you want to see the report, we can use here, it is fetching based on some of the default data. And here you can then see the full detail about your landscape. What are the source paths? What are the protocols that is used? What is it? So there's something about some edifact splitter. This is obviously something you need to understand. How do we work with these scenarios? You have the tags that are used. You have the operation mappings, where you can see all the message mapping, ABAP XSLT, etc. Function libraries, imported archives. some of these things that we find that was creating problems, that was our old way of dealing with it. Now we just recommend that you're using the tags because that simplifies the process. Oh, I should zoom in here. We got the receiver modules, how many PI test cases you have, if you have migrated the scenario or not, and then you have the number of messages. And in our 24.9 release, we will also, if everything goes as expected, then we would also be able to show you which of these is BPMN related interfaces, making the migration a little easier to understand, or the assessment easier to understand. So that was the three main components that we have in this migration tool that you can use for free: the assessment, the test data, and the migration management. There's obviously some limits on what you can use the testing for, so you can only take PI messages and replay them on the CPI for 30 days. And after those 30 days, you then need either to re-record it, or you need to buy a testing license, because then you can create these test cases and reuse them. And obviously we do believe that it's a good idea to reuse all the investment you have made into these test cases. But hopefully this enables you to get started. I did talk a lot, there's also a lot of about Groovy, or a lot about the DevOps. There's a lot of in the developer experience that simplifies the way you're working with this. With the integration, so we have a lot of governance, you have virtualizations of your tenants, so you can reuse them also for QA without sacrificing on the governance. We have a Groovy IDE that makes it possible for you to edit your Groovy scripts, function libraries. All this is simplified, and then obviously there's the migration tool that also simplifies the migration. Normally, yeah, we recommend that you do like a smaller proof of concept migration. Don't migrate everything, but just explore the capabilities of these scenarios and see how they can be done. Yes, and that's the main goal of this. We do, let me just, yeah. So yeah, once you have the tool in the trial, you can obviously go in and explore more about what it can do. How does our custom migration mapping works? How do you, so we do have our own algorithm to make it easier to work on. Obviously you want to continuous test, and there's a lot more in it. We normally, yeah, recommend that you explore the tool. You can use this, and Michael also shared a link here about how you can actually set up learn how to use the tool, set it up for DevOps, set it up for migration, create all of these scenarios. So the installation is like an hour, the DevOps is an hour, and the migration is also about an hour. So it is fairly easy to get started with the tool, and obviously recommend that one. Yes, so when we are testing, so we do have a number of different ways of testing. So normally the Figaf tool will send the message into the iFlow. If we do not have, or if you have an iFlow that does not follow these scenarios, that's HTTP based, or we have a mock for GMS or for a process direct. So if it's using one of those, we would have an iFlow that you deploy on the system, and then we can send messages into that and into the iFlow. If you have file-based or SFTP, whatever, some strange AS2 adapter, something like that, would be impossible to actually send messages to without spending a lot of time about setting up connections specifically for this. The way the tool does is just create a copy of the iFlow, replaces the sending adapter with an HTTP that we can then trigger. So also scheduled processes. Probably not ideal for migration scenarios, but it's there, and mostly for other scenarios. So we can test everything. We also have an option to migrate other scenarios if you want to see that. So no, so mock receiving endpoints, so you can actually explore those things. Yes. Other questions? That's a good one. Yeah, so I do hope you will come to Copenhagen if you are interested in migration. It's a good event to learn much more about what you can do in migrations and cover some of those things there. If do you still want to see how to start out the tool, how to explore, and at least create the assessment report? I think we should be able to do that. But yeah, this is live, so put in your questions, comments, and I'll try to cover those. But I guess let's first explore what it is that is interesting for you guys. There. Yes, timer works also. It will just replace the timer with a HTTP call, but probably not really ideal for migrations scenarios. Other questions? Thanks, Philip. New comments. So if there's a new version of on-prem version of CPI, I'm showing the slide. Yes, I don't think that there will be one. So obviously there's the Edge integration cell that allow you to run the integration suite runtime on your on-premise Kubernetes cluster or in your Azure environment, but all management for now is done via your integration suite tenant. So you need to have an integration suite tenant where you'll be doing all the development and the deployment of this. Obviously, it could be possible that they would allow you to move more of this behind the scene, so at least you would do the development in your development CPI tenant or integration suite tenant, and then you'll run it locally. But I don't know what you're actually looking for in this on-prem, because the Edge integration cell is there. It is somewhat easy to deploy. Probably the best way to explore that is to use one of the cloud providers to just set up a simple system, explore what it can do, and what are the limitations of it. Do you still want to see how to get started with the tool? Please add that into the comments, then I will show you how to install and connect it to the different systems. It will take 20 minutes or something like that. So there need to be a few people that says they want to see that. I think it also, Edge integration cell, they've added a lot of effort into that one. It is, and there's still a little roadmap for it to go. There's a little difference between those things, because the PO1 was fully on-premise, no need to do anything on it, and you could just develop in CPI and then deploy it on those scenarios. Okay. So anyone else want to see installation? Otherwise, I'll always recommend this guide. But let's try. So The goal is you will go here to figaf.com. You will sign up for the Migration Edition, try for free. Either go try for free and or find the Migration Edition under products. It is kind of the same thing. It's the same product, it's just different licenses. Then we will go here to the trial download, which has been redirected. Here you can download this to files. So this one, and we also need a Java 17 Java. So normally I just copy this one. I have downloaded these two files already, and I will extract this file into this directory, and then I will create a new text document, run bat, writ, show more, notepad++. So here I have my notepad, I'll just paste this in. So this is what you need to do to explore it. The only thing is I just need to go here and select the bin folder here. So we're pointing to the right Java version. Dope. And obviously I normally recommend you put in something like that. Do not run this from your OneDrive folder. That's just going to add problems. And then you obviously need also to questions, just put them into the chat. I'm here still. You need to copy this name of the file version. So if you do change the version, you just need to update this file, and then you just click on run. This will then open this Java in a new screen, or in a bad file. So I don't know. You can say what you like about bad or not, but it is a good. And it's creating the database. So it comes with a built-in database that you can use. It's not the robust database for enterprise-grade development, but as you can see, it is pretty easy to get started with. So to get started, I will go here, localhost. That's the wrong one. So I think you had this here. So this URL. And we will log in with super user default password, license not configured. No. So here we then have the license, and I just before I registered a new license. So you get a license like this, you put it in here, whoop, load license, and you have actually access to the tool for this scenario. There's obviously a lot in user management. Normally I recommend that you not change the password here when you're running it locally, because otherwise you end up with having changed the password to something you don't remember 3 months down the line, and then you need to scratch out. Okay, let's first connect to our PI system. So I have a PI system here, SAP 02. So here is my PI system. That means that I just use here. Create a new agent. So this is D for 5, Daniel, and when you're connecting via BTP and Cloud Connector, their URLs is obviously a little different. We can enter this here. We will try all of these things. So I do have there's some different roles you need to have access to this. We can fetch here, and now we have created. We can test the configuration. It's okay if you need DevOps, you will complain about these things, but we don't need that for now. So to be able to create the report, I will press go here and select synchronize. to simplify the process, I'll just say skip data types because we don't really need them. We only need them for DevOps, and one of the future versions we will say that this is an optional value you don't need to actually use. Okay, so this will take a few minutes to process, depending on the landscape size, your memory. So if you have a large landscape, do not use it on a laptop with a less than 8 GB of RAM and a good internet connection. Okay, the other thing I wanted to do is duplicate this tab, and I wanted to also create a CPI agent. So to do that, I go here. I think I did have a trial instance running here. So I'll just use this trial instance here of my BTP. So here I have the integrations route. So this is the URL for it. And I will go, so CI trial URL, book. And then we need to have two API keys, one for the public API, and that is going into instances. So I already created these. I'll just reuse these here. So view parameters, that's the wrong one. I want to view this. So the API here, we have the API. We'll view the credentials, copy JSON. We will. Dude, are you still watching? Let's see if someone disappeared here. So here I will just go in here and pass it, and then we can fetch the data. We will need to do the same thing for the message processing key. Here we need to have all the accesses or different roles that you would be needing for this. So we'll pass. And now the most complicated part about this installation is we need to set up a custom identity provider for the landscape. And to do that, there's a guide here that will show you what to do. I don't like it, or I guess I prefer to do it, or I've done it way too many times. Maybe that's the problem. So to do that, we go into trust configuration. We say here new SAML trust configuration. We select the file we just downloaded. So we will call it Daniel trial. It should not be available for logon, just to simplify your life. Pass it and say save. Then we just need to go in here and give this user some access. So we create here new role mapping. It needs to have the PI administrator, groups, and admin. This should also be in the list. So we need to add 3 roles here. Business expert, groups, admin. And the last one, guess, PI integration developer. And the value here is also admin. Cool. So now we have done that. The only thing we need to do is to take this SAML here, open it. And we need the second last value, which is the one that is called here HTTP post. And we can take that back into the Figaf tool. Select next. Are you still watching? And that was actually all we needed to do here. Now it says here we have also created a sample migration transport landscape, and we can select the number of packages we want. Whoop. And now we can synchronize it. And now we have actually connected it successfully to our both PI and CPI system. Anyone have a timing on this? I think something like 12 minutes. And so here we can see all the different iFlows that we have. There's a lot of goodies in here in the DevOps that you can see. So the only thing we need to do now is to go in here in the PI agent, select it, and we do the same thing for the CPI trial. Now we can go here. Yeah. One of the UI issues is you need to remember to save certain pages. So here we need to scroll down and press save. And now I can go here, I can generate the report. So with the data that we have, how many scenarios do we actually have for this? So now you can see the same report that we have in here. If we should create this recording again, we can go here, we can select it. So we can then record messages. So now we are actually installed the full tool. Cool. Did you follow along? Yes, so we can select record messages. We can create a new test suite here, demo, if I could spell it. We can choose historical messages. So it says here there's some warnings about this, that it has not been configured correctly. So what we can select it here, let's see if it records it. So pull remote messages. Yeah, so it only got one incoming message and one outgoing message, which is not really ideal. So let's just take the setting here. So the problem is it did not find the right settings scenario. So we need to go here and press save again. Let's see if it's now more successful. And we can then go here and we can copy. Added fetch future messages. Let's just try that. And now we can see the validation warnings is gone because we've added it. I'll send a message in. We can pull the messages. There is definitely something wrong here. So if we open last polling result here, we can see the message processing log. We can see the processed messages. Payload not found. So there was some kind of a problem with this outgoing flow. I think we added some checks around it, or it has taken too long to process. Let me just try to copy this one. Chosen message group, and then let's select all of the do. So let's see if it's fetched it. So now at least we have 2 outgoing messages. Something is missing, but at least it's able to process. I think we also have an option here under the agent. We just added that enable even if it has failed status. So yeah, we were able to create these test cases, and we still need, so when you are here on the test suite, you need to go in and you need to select create test case on it. It needs to be regression for this. And that's actually all you need to do. Cool. Cool. I'm glad you liked it, Philip. Talk to you. Yes. Questions? I hope you found this this useful. Adding it to BTP does take a little longer because you need to deploy it, but if you have access, this is the timeline that we are looking at. Cool. I hope I gave you something about what you can actually do. I do recommend that if you want to check out more about the tool, you go, both to our event, and also you spend some time with this longer demo format and explore what's actually possible with the tooling. Cool. Thanks. Other questions? I'm glad you liked it and stayed on. I just have a few more minutes. Let's see what's going on. Cool. Yes. Any other questions? And just add them to the chat. But thanks for watching. I really appreciate you taking some time here, signing up, learning on what we're actually able to work with. Is important. So really appreciate it. I hope even though we got a little late start, you find it useful, and yeah, thanks for staying on. And yeah, please share it with people you think is interesting, and use the tool for the migrations. Thank you. Let's see if I can end the stream.